Welcome to another episode of the Make Mental Health Matter show. I am your host, Kelli Melissa Reinhardt, and I am excited to be back in studio and with my guest for today. If you happen to be just tuning in for the very first time, thank you so much for watching the Make Mental Health Matter show. I bring guests who are either professionals in the space, advocates, or those that have lived experience, whether it's mental health, substance use, suicidal ideation, or loss, or anything that revolves around. Some of these topics can be hard conversations, but that's what we do here. We have the conversations that are hard, but we make them a little bit easier because talking about these subjects are very important. So, without further ado and rambling even more, my guest for today, I'm going to let her tell a little bit about herself this time. So just a little bit of background. You can either go into your full story or share what you do. It's totally up to you.
Well, as you know, I'm a music teacher and I teach your son, who's in 4th grade. And also your mom was my sub for when I had my 2 maternity leaves. And those kids are 16 and 19 now. So
wow,
it's been a while.
It's been a long
time. But I'm also a mental health first aid trainer and have lived experience, mental health issues myself, but also especially with my sister. I lost her to suicide back in 2013, and today is her birthday. So she would have been 50 today. So forever 38. But so being a music teacher, a lot of times people think that, I must be so talented at music. I don't think I'm particularly talented. I think it was just, I was brought up with that a lot. And I got to have a lot of experiences with the arts when I was growing up. And my parents made us learn instruments. we all had to learn an instrument because that's what we do in our family. And I was not very happy with learning the saxophone, but now I love it. But once I started playing in an ensemble, I was like, oh, this is awesome. Mm-hmm. So it was just a great experience for me, confidence builder, and music has gotten me through a lot of hard times. So I wanted to be able to share that with others. And so I decided to teach it.
Nice. Yeah, I think I did flute, guitar, recorder. I think we all have to do recorder. But
which is funny because when I was in elementary school, I didn't do recorder.
Oh.
So I do it now, but my main instrument is the oboe, and saxophone is my minor instrument. I learned how to play piano somewhat, not very good at it, very short fingers, so not very good at the guitar either because of that. But
yeah, I did piano also, but my mom would not teach me. She was like, you have to go somewhere else because I'm not teaching you. So, which I get.
I get that because my kids would not learn from me.
Yeah. So. Yes. Well, I'm excited for you to be on. One, because I've known you for a really long time, I feel like, at this point. And it was really cool that, my mom actually was like, you need to send my son to trails. And I was like, okay. But we've had the opportunity to just learn more about people in the school, you more specifically, because even before he was in the school, you had come with us on a walk. We did the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention walk that they do every year in Colorado. And that's when I started learning about your story. So
yes.
Yeah. And I know that today is exceptionally, I know this is being recorded, but the day that we are recording it is a special day. And a question. I love to ask interesting questions. One that had, for me, I couldn't ever remember my sister's age. I don't know if that was like, I couldn't remember like when she had passed.
Yeah.
And I think it was because for me, it was, I grew into that age. Now I'm past the age, but I just could never, everybody's like, well, how old was she? And I was like, I have no idea. And I'd have to like count on my fingers. But I don't know if that was an experience that you had, or was that like set in your mind?
Well, she was only a year and a half younger than me. So, but sometimes I had to like figure out the half year.
Oh, right.
Yeah. But we were kind of brought up as like people thought we were twins. We looked exactly the same mannerisms, same everything. So,
Wow.
so I mean, I never remembered a time without her being my sister. So
Yeah. And so only siblings or
only sibling.
Okay.
Yes.
And your parents had you right back to back?
Yes.
Okay.
Boom, boom. They were, in my family, we like to have our children at an older age. So
that works. Yeah.
So my grandmother was 40 when she had my mom. So
wow.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
But yep. Same with me. I had my kids when I was in my 30s. So
yes, I did 16 and then 30.
That's right. You had like a big gap there.
18-year difference. Yes. So, I know, I mean, there's lots of people obviously that have kids later in life, but I think, and I don't know why my brain just went that way, but the other way, when we talk about sibling loss, more specifically centered around suicide, and not, I guess there's so many different levels of this because you kind of, at least for me, I look at it as, perspective of my mom and then perspective of sisters and then perspective of like my niece and my nephew child, right? Parent. And there's so many layers when you start talking about loss, but I think especially being so close together that it's like there's this bond, and it's, I'm not going to say it's more challenging by any means because everybody has their own experience through loss.
Right. And I think suicide is such a challenging type of grief because there's so many emotions and so many thoughts and feelings that you have when you go through that. And it wasn't that long ago, but there was a lot of stigma, I think, with suicide. So me and my parents weren't really comfortable talking about it. Looking back, I needed to talk about it. And what really helped me was a grief counselor. I went to a short-term grief counselor, and I was just able to just say everything I was feeling to somebody that wasn't in my family, not anybody I knew, and just getting it out there really helped me with my mental health. But yeah, it's really hard because of all those other layers. For instance, I was angry because she left me, and it's like a part of me was missing. But also she left me to deal with eventually my parents passing alone.
Right.
So, and I did end up losing my father 6 months later, 8 months later.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it was
one right after another.
Yeah. So now it's just me and my mom, and I have one uncle that is still around. He's in his 90s. So
oh, wow.
And my mom's in her 80s. So it was really challenging. But once I was able to get a lot of things off my chest, I could talk about it more and start to become more of an advocate for mental health issues. And I think the biggest thing I realized was that when people, when they die by suicide, it isn't really a choice. Like, they just want to end the pain. And I remembered conversations with my sister, like, because we both suffered from mental health issues. Like, I'm never going to do that to you. I'm never, so and I don't think she meant to hurt me at all. She just wanted to end the pain. So, and it's hard too, because she left behind my nephew who was only 3 when she passed. So
did he come with you, or where did he go?
He's with her husband. So he's a widow.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
Yeah. And they live all the way in Pennsylvania. So we kept trying to get them to move out here, but they wouldn't.
Come to Colorado. It's not as bad as you think. Just kidding. Yeah. I'm curious, and this question just kind of, because mental health challenges, right? Like, what the pain? So we talk about the pain, right? I know, well, I believe I know what led my sister to die by suicide. And I know I always talk about it. Like, she was surrounded by millions. She had so many people that she could have potentially reached out to, but she was like, had just recently, year prior, gotten diagnosed with MS. She also just felt very alone. She was a caregiver, and I really truly believe she just, at the end of the day, had nothing left for herself. Going back to like the metaphor of you can't pour from an empty cup.
Right.
And I think that's where it got.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if you have thought about like what is that pain that she was trying to stop?
Well, when I was pregnant with my first daughter, Sophia, I developed antepartum depression, which they don't talk about that. Like I didn't even know that was a thing because you always hear about postpartum depression. And when I had that plus my normal anxiety, like that's when I really understood how she feels when, or how she felt when she was like really in so much pain mentally. And then with anxiety too, you can get sick physically with it. I used to, both my sister and I, when we were kids, used to have all these stomach problems. We had all this testing and everything. And it was just anxiety, but there was not a name for that back then. It was all like, oh, it's in your head. I grew up with thinking everything was just in my head because I also have chronic pain issues and I have fibromyalgia, and I was told basically that, oh, your pain is just in your head because it's an invisible disease. They didn't know much about it. But chronic pain is really hard to deal with, is with your mental health too, because it's like, and for my fibromyalgia, it's not extreme, but it's like a burr in the heel. Like it just like after a while, it just kind of gets to you and you start getting cranky and just, yeah. So
you're like, my body hurts.
But with my sister, it was just lots of anxiety. Like I don't think she could turn her brain off, like the negative thoughts and she was always worried about what people thought about her and that she hurt someone or that she said the wrong thing, and it was just debilitating. She couldn't sleep. She had trouble driving because she didn't sleep, and so she was stuck at home a lot. And yeah, it's just like a cycle of things that she was going through that just kind of made it worse and worse. And some months, like I want to say like 3 or 4 months before she passed, she tried a new treatment, and it wasn't, I don't think it was like shock therapy, but it was something where they got her off of most of the meds she was on, and then they did some kind of like shock or something like with her body, and it obviously didn't help. It made it a lot worse. And yeah, it was just, and she was also, I think, someone who was a guinea pig. Like her doctor would just keep throwing different meds at her, and thankfully for me, meds work for me. They help me. But with my sister, nothing would help her.
No.
So
they never like found that perfect cocktail,
right.
as you
even like the sleep meds, like she couldn't sleep.
Okay.
So
well, and I mean, that's something we don't talk about, is that sleep is huge with your mental health. Yeah. And I know people sometimes are like, well, I don't need any sleep. Well, you do. And the less sleep you have, the more challenges or mental health challenges people have.
Yes.
So
yeah. So it just keeps building on itself.
Yeah.
So, and I've had insomnia issues in the past too, and cognitive behavioral therapy helps me, but it doesn't help everybody. So you just kind of have to find what works for you. So
I didn't actually, I mean, I understood that sleep was, huge, but I didn't fully understand it. I actually had a sleep specialist come on the show, and we had this whole conversation, and I was like, whoa. So then I knew, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense when people aren't sleeping and then they have pain. Right. And then, like you were saying, that anxiety. So now you're just adding things on top of things. Right. And unfortunately, that's a recipe for whether it's self-harm or suicide or other substances, things of that nature.
Right.
So,
yeah. And she had attempts before. And I found out later that she had one a couple days before she passed, and she was in like an emergency room, and the doctor there said something to the effect of, how can you do this to your family?
Wow.
Yeah. So even medical professionals have like no clue how to talk to people that are having a mental health crisis like that. So I think nowadays, it's not been that long, like I say, but I think things are a lot better now. There's still some improvement that needs to happen, but there's just not enough beds for people still. So when they're in that emergency situation, but
yeah, no, and I something that you said popped into my head as far as the medication and the beds and all those things, but we have to go to our first quick sponsored break. So we're going to go to the break and we'll be right back after this message.
Have you ever felt completely alone?
Like your life doesn't matter.
One person dies due to suicide every 40 seconds.
You are not alone. Call the National Suicide Lifeline at 988.
Hope and recovery is possible.
1 in 8 people globally live with a mental disorder.
That's why empowering minds saves lives.
We need your help.
With only $19 a month, you help us save lives through mental health and suicide prevention education.
Scan the QR code or go to makementalhealthmatter.
Hi everyone, I am Sinead from Bredor. I'm from Johannesburg, South Africa. Please join me in my Power Hour every Sunday, 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time on E360 TV. Mwah. Hi everyone.
Hello, this is Steve Ramona with the TV show Together We Serve, Fridays, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on E360 TV. Together We Serve.
Welcome back to the Make Mental Health Matter show. If you happen to be just tuning in, thank you so much for watching or listening. Make sure you go back and listen to the first half of this because you missed the whole bunch. But Jennifer, Jen, which one do you prefer?
Jen, Jennifer, Jenny.
Okay. I'm like,
most people call me Jen.
Okay. I was like, I usually say Jennifer, but I'm like, which one do you want me to call you? So we're talking about her loss of her sister to suicide back in 2013, and we're starting to have the conversation around medication, medical professionals, and I had some thoughts that popped into my head. More specifically, I also, with my sister, it's like we got to that right cocktail finally, or it felt like, right?
Yes.
Because she had previous attempts, and then it was about 5 years that our family knew of the last attempt, but that was also a time frame where the right cocktail got put together. Yeah. And come to find out, which we didn't know then, was that she had gone off her medication.
Oh, yeah.
So that was when you said that is when the doctors took your sister off her medication.
Right.
Like maybe it was working, and then they took her off to do the procedure or whatever they were doing, and then it led to the spiraling thoughts, and I just feel like that's such a recipe for disaster.
Yes. And they didn't take her off of everything. Like you can't just go off of Klonopin, like you, because that can really do some damage, from what I hear. And she got pregnant with Benjamin, and my sister's name is Amanda. And that was a surprise. So she did get off of meds during that as much as she could. And then went back on, I think. But so I think a lot of it too was just like the switching of meds constantly and just like throwing things at her to try. And I mean, I'm not a medical professional, but I would think that would really mess with you.
Right. Right. Well, yeah, I mean, they all do different things, and I am not a medical professional either. I do not prescribe medication, but I do know that there has to be a right one for your body type, right? They have some cool things that they do now to figure that out, but they're not all the same,
right?
And they all work differently. some of them actually rewire the brain, and it's just, you have to find the right one for you.
Right.
Also, you mentioned something about the medical professional and what they happen to say. I get it was 2013, right? It actually is like very different time if you think about it now.
Yes.
And there's still medical professionals that don't use the right words.
Right.
And we're trying as far as the mental health space, but I have trained a lot of people in mental health first aid and other education programs that we do, but it's interesting, especially when I have the professionals in the class and they're like, I've never learned this.
Right. Yeah. I've noticed that too, because we've had professionals come for training, and one was from my building, and I'm like, why are you here? Right. I don't know if I said it that way, but she said that she wanted to be able to tell people how to support people, and how to get them help. Yeah. So, which makes total sense. And for me, I was like, that's why I love you. Right. Because you get it.
Yeah. And it is, I mean, the thing about it is that sometimes we say the wrong thing and we can pivot and we can go back and try to say the right thing. I think it also, I'm actually the generation that's coming up. I'm excited for them, a little scared, but a little excited because they're so much more open. Yes. They're willing to talk about things now, whereas we know back in the day, it was like, you don't talk about that.
Right. Well, like and children are seen and not heard.
Yes. So I hate that phrase.
Sorry.
No. Right.
Like we didn't really have a say in a lot of things, whereas now kids are more willing to share their feelings and want to share their feelings. And yeah. So
I've even noticed, I mean, with my son, which you know, I talk to him a lot about a lot of things, right? He knows what I do with my nonprofit. He comes and helps me at events. We even have had events that he's like, I don't really get what they're talking about. This is boring. And I was like, well, I'm glad you don't. You can go in the other room. But also I try to have those conversations of like, hey, this is what it's about. And you have a safe space for at home and with me if you ever need to talk. That was not how I was raised. Right.
Yeah.
And in retrospect, I'm like, you have really nice parents that, you know, that allow you to voice and have your opinion, but that's just how life is now.
Right.
And it's not that our parents did anything wrong. They did the best that they could. But
yeah. And when I was growing up, it was a lot of, oh, don't be silly. Like, because I had a lot of anxiety, especially social anxiety. Oh, don't be silly. It's fine, you know, and just like brushed it off. But they didn't know that anxiety was a thing back then. Yeah. So I don't blame them at all. It's just we know now that we know better, we do better with our own kids. So, and I've still messed up with my own kids. So, but I own up to it with them.
Well, and I would not want to be a teacher. I'm just saying, like at one point in my life, of course, I was like, I want to be a teacher because my mom's a teacher. And then I started having kids and I was like, you can have my children. Goodbye. So I commend you for.
Well, I think it's easier being a teacher than a parent. Just saying.
Fair enough. Well, because you can let them go home and you don't have to deal with them anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it's a controlled environment. So.
Right. That's true. Yes. I know. I mean, I love the music factor, right? And I love what you said earlier too. So I'm kind of circling back a little bit. That you don't have to be like amazing at music, right? To be a music teacher.
Right.
You have to know some things and have a passion to teach and be willing to learn yourself. And I know it wasn't really an option for you when you were younger, whether you were going to learn or not, but that opens your world, which I know, and I'm going to say this because it really, really makes me mad when they start budget cutting in the arts, because those are the only things I feel like that get you through as a kid.
Right. And for a lot of kids, that's their safe place or that's their happy place. Not all kids, but
True.
But a lot of kids really shine in the arts and or in PE, and it is sad when they cut it. So
don't cut any
yeah.
of the arts.
Well, and that's why I'm also technology coordinator at my school, because they had to cut my position down. So I was able to pick that up to stay full time. So
wow,
and I'm lucky because I love technology. I'm not certified technology, but even if I was, like, it's changing so quickly that it wouldn't matter anyway. So I just like solving problems with it and everything. So I'm happy to do it. But you're right. It's something that we've been looking into as music teachers in the state and around the country. We're always advocating. So thank you for advocating.
Always. I really, truly, I mean, that was such a big thing for me. Although my mom was my music teacher from 3rd to 5th grade, and I never got a lead in anything because she didn't want anybody to like think that I was a favorite or anything. Trauma. Just kidding. But it was such a big thing for me. My whole entire life was music, and it still is, like dancing and music. I mean, my whole sleeve is all about music and dance, and it's been a part of our life, and it's like the connection to life, at least for me. And my son loves to dance now, and so that's so fun to be able to do it together and just have those dance parties.
Well, you've come to my dance fitness class. So I'm a refit instructor. Refit is a revolution of fitness. So it's supposed to be like fitness for everybody, and not just the body, but the mind and the spirit. So we build community, and just it's a lot. That mental health goes right with it. So I'm really trying to get some other refit instructors certified in mental health first aid, because we always have this heart work time at the end of our workouts where we can talk about things, and that might be a time where we could use those tools from mental health first aid to help our participants with things. I've shared, for instance, the self-help, what is it? The
self-help workbook.
It's like the circle with the different,
yeah.
So we've seen that visual a few times in my classes. So
very cool.
And talk about what we do for self-care and how we kind of refuel and all that kind of stuff, because that's so important. And for me, that was music a lot growing up, and for my sister, it was art. She was an artist. And but it was really hard for her because she, like, the corporate world wasn't a good fit for her, because she worked at her own pace, and she was very slow and meticulous. And when you're in the corporate world, you have to hit these deadlines. And so, and it feels like it stifles creativity. And so, I mean, that was difficult. Just that was difficult for her too. So
yeah, I mean, I think that arts and music and all the things are so important, and it really is where we get so many creative people in this world. I was like, person's world together. But we're going to go to our last quick sponsored break. And once we get back, we'll chat even more about that, because I had some other questions pop into my head.
All right.
1,917 people die daily from suicide globally.
I lost my middle sister, Carrie, to a completed suicide on February 20th, 2017.
How does Kelli, host of the Make Mental Health Matter show, impact lives?
Number 1, awareness.
My story, however, it isn't unique. I am a domestic violence survivor and a recovering addict. For 14 years, I was in active addiction. And because of Kelli and the work that she does and the opportunity to have my voice heard, I was able to stay clean and sober and have hit a year. I'm still here. And if it wasn't for Kelli answering my call the day that I thought I was going to take my life.
2, conversation.
I'm curious, and I know that I've heard a lot in the BIPOC community, it is very hush-hush. It's like one of those things that you don't talk about. Like, you literally feel like
it's not a conversation you can have. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
First, shout out to Kelly, because I'm glad that she asked the question. I researched you before I went on your show, and I saw how real and authentic you were. And I just appreciate the question, because it is different, and we have to have tough, courageous conversations. So yes, I always say I'm a triple diversity threat. I'm a Black woman with multiple disabilities. Now, I'm not really a threat, but to other people, I may be, because people fear the unknown and what they're uncomfortable with.
Number 3, education.
Kelli's passionate commitment to mental health awareness is a beautiful thing. It's clear in her social media posts, it's clear in the resources that she puts together, in the activities that she provides, her collaboration with organizations, and the consistent way that she continues to deliver a message, encouraging people to understand that they can share openly and to break the stigma around mental health. Kelli's topics cover children and adults, talk about things that we can do as a community, things that we can do individually, and her website is packed with information and resources and all kinds of contacts that you can use to reach out, whether you're dealing with something yourself or you're looking to help somebody else who is struggling. I encourage.
And like that, we're back. If you happen to be joining the Make Mental Health Matter show now, you missed a lot, so just make sure you go back. So Jen and I were talking about, before we went to the break, more specifically, I love how it flowed into dance. I was like, it all went to dance. I am in the middle of helping create an event, and I was like, we have to have a dance party. So they're like, yeah. I was like, yes, please. You talked about refit. And I know that I got to come, and because parents were welcome to come, yes, which was so fun. And then some of the body and the movement and just moving your body. And I found at those times that I am super stressed, or I am going. Dance kind of like leaves, and it like, but then once I bring it back, it just energizes me.
Yes. I love dance, and this is kind of like my way of doing dance. I had some issues with that, part of the fibromyalgia, but with refit, you can adapt it and so easily. So if I'm feeling a certain way someday, I can kind of bring it down a little bit. I can take it up. And we tell our participants that too. This is your workout, so you do what you're comfortable with. So it's just been a godsend for me, and that's why I teach it for free on every Wednesday at 5 p.m.
Where can they go?
Trails West Elementary.
Okay.
At 5400 South Waco Street, Centennial. So I do it for free because that's also part of my mental health is I self-care by doing refit, but I need to do it with people.
Oh yeah.
So just refit's great because they put up a lot of free content on online, and you can stream workouts, but I prefer to be with my tribe, and because we're all supportive of each other, and everybody's come as you are. It's for people of any fitness level, age. We have a instructor that's like in her 80s, and we have people in wheelchairs, like and kids, of course, because I do that kid class at school. So it's a very open community. I never would have thought that I would be a fitness instructor.
You're like music teacher, fitness instructor, mental health first aid teacher, not on the list.
Yeah, I know. There's quite a list.
Right. No, I think so we're going to restart our community events, actually starting in June. So refit is on my list of what we want to try to incorporate. We're going to kind of ramp them up, and then hopefully we'll be bringing more people in just to provide that community, because I think you're right. It's finding that tribe, being able to have the people surround you that just get it.
Right.
And you don't have to be anything but yourself.
Exactly. Right. And that's so important for me too, because I still have social anxiety. I've worked through it, but I tell my kids, because they both have anxiety, that yeah, I've learned how to manage it, but it's still hard for me. And there's still things that I almost can't do or can do. So, so, but having those things for self-care, like my refit tribe, really helps. I mean, the reason I never went to a gym before that was because of my social anxiety. And I was like too self-conscious about myself to work out with people present.
Right.
So
you're like, there's people here watching
so I
me.
started going to a refit class that was offered for free in the area, and that instructor encouraged me to become certified, and then she had to move out of state, so I took over her class. And yeah,
Wow. That's super cool. And I know you also mentioned that you are a mental health first aid instructor,
right.
As with myself. But tell the audience, because I don't really talk about that very often. So share a little bit, like, what is mental health first aid and why has it been important for you to teach?
Well, just as a little background, our education association in Cherry Creek, we were, of course, finding out that a lot of teachers were having mental health challenges, and we wanted to find a way to support each other. So there's 4 of us that are trained in mental health first aid, and we are able, through the Education Association, to provide free classes, 3 free classes throughout the year for staff in Cherry Creek schools. And the mental health first aid is just that initial help and support for people that are having mental health challenges. And it's so empowering for me because the problem I had with my sister was I didn't know how to support her. I didn't know where to direct her for the appropriate support. I'm not a medical professional. So knowing part of mental health first aid is knowing some of those avenues that you can, I mean, you can't force someone to do that, but just different things that are out there that can help a person that is having a lot of those mental health challenges. And teachers, there's a lot that goes on in our job that can cause mental health challenges. So
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like it's just getting worse. I mean, one, technology has taken over the world, but
yes,
2, it's like the amount of not only mental health but also behavioral challenges, I feel like it's gotten greater, but I also realize that there's more people in this world, so maybe that's a part of it. But then now we have budget cutting and we're adding more kids. It's like, hey, here's a whole bunch more work, but I'm going
right.
to take away the money. Like, that doesn't
Yeah.
seem fair to me
And
either.
then just a lot more paperwork that teachers have to do. So yeah, it's super challenging. And I think you're totally right about technology. I mean, I love technology, but I'm a Gen Xer, so I don't have to have it. Like I leave just ask my kids, I leave my phone all the time. Oops, I forgot my phone.
Right.
So, but these kids today, like they're so reliant on it, and it is affecting their brains with all that screen time. And then with COVID, with all the trauma, they all have trauma from that. And I've seen it with my kids too. Just things that are happening in our society are causing trauma for them. And they have friends and they are part of the LGBTQ community, and that has been really stressful for them. So, and I've lived in times where that was starting to be more accepted, and people were feeling better. So it just really hurts my heart that kids are going through that. So I think going back to mental health first aid, I think it's so important too with teenagers. They want to support each other. They want to know what to do to help their friends. And a lot of times I've noticed with my kids, they have so much empathy that it starts to affect them too. So they need to know what some of those self-care things are, those tools they can use to keep themselves healthy, mentally healthy. So
yeah, it's definitely, I mean, so my organization, we started training it in 2018 originally. I got my adult certification, or no, youth certification in 2019, and then my adult in 2020, I think, and then teen 2021. I have not trained the teen one yet. But it is, I mean, it's because it's 10th, 11th, and 12th graders that it's specifically for. But we do a ton of classes. So most recently, we actually started collaborating with All Health Network. And there, I'm just kind of plugging myself into their system so I can train even more classes, mainly in Douglas County, which it's been really cool because then it opens up that community that it's been more on a national level for me, and now I'm kind of bringing it back to Colorado, but I could only imagine just teachers and the availability. And I know I had trained one class in Cherry Creek schools, but it was good because that was kind of the lead in to bringing it into the schools. And I was like, this doesn't have to be me as long as you're doing it. And I think that's so cool that they have adopted that. We continue to partner as much as we can, especially with Cherry Creek School. But going back, you talked about COVID, and I know my son, he started public school with a mask on.
Right. Yeah. And that we've been talking about that this year with our 5th graders because they go on to middle school after this year, that they've dealt with that since the very beginning, where they were in kindergarten and they didn't get to go to school for the whole year. And my kids were affected because I had a 5th grader at that time and an 8th grader. So they both missed their like big continuation things and all the fun stuff that comes with that. And then my older daughter had to start high school hybrid, and online school does not work for her. So she's on the spectrum, and that just does not work for her. And it was a disaster. And that really was a blow to her mental health. And we've been trying to kind of dig out of that since then.
Yeah.
So it's been really hard and traumatic for kids. And I think a lot of adults don't realize that.
Well, and I think we've already started seeing how it's affecting them, but I think we're like really getting the effects now. And I know my son, he's like, that one time when we did school online, right? Like he remembers, but kind of doesn't remember. And my stepdaughter was actually the flip-flop. She went online, and that was better for her.
Right. My younger daughter is like that.
Yeah. So I think it's one of those figuring out what works for you or not, kind of like when we were talking about medication, but the learning aspect. I also want to circle back just a little bit because you were talking about earlier, like, the 45 minutes ago, stomach issues with kids.
Yeah.
My son, there's more things wrapped into that, but he often says that his stomach's hurting. And I was kind of starting to track it, and it was happening like on Mondays for the most part. So then I was like, oh, we need to have a conversation. What's going on? Creating that safe space for him to share whatever is happening, knowing that anxiety more specifically really comes from future thinking. So you're thinking about all the things that are going to happen in the future. Whereas when we talk about depression, it's more in the past.
Right.
So it's one of those things. Trust your kids when they say they're having upset stomachs, and start asking questions. They can be open-ended questions are generally better. But I think that goes for anybody. So if you have adults in your life that have maybe social anxiety, or that they live with depression, right? Start asking questions, because like you said earlier, is that you would have loved to have been able to talk about your sister.
Right.
And you didn't have that opportunity back in the day. And I think that people are just so scared to bring up these conversations because they don't want to upset you, or they're just not sure how to have the conversation. So I love that you brought up all of those points.
Well, and I think that most of the time people really like it when you bring up their loved one. I love talking about how awesome my sister was, because she was she was a beautiful artist. She went to the Cleveland Institute of Art, which is a really hard school to even get into, and it's a 5-year program. She wrote and illustrated a whole children's book for her final project. I mean, she was amazing, and she was probably the kindest person that I've ever known. Like she would give you the shirt off her back. She would just she was just I really miss that part of her, because I was able to, that kind of helped me to and she didn't have the social anxiety. So being with her helped me become more social too. So yeah.
Yeah. And I know, I mean, it's definitely a journey that doesn't just stop. It is a continuous, I call it a roller coaster, because you have those days that you're like high and you can talk about them till you're blue in the face. And then you have those days that I'm like, I don't want to get out of bed. And I'm going to cry on this floor in my bathroom, and that's okay.
Well, and it comes up all of a sudden too. It's just like, I'll hear a song or I'll have like a memory, and it's just like, ugh.
Right.
So
like, why? And going back to music, right? Because our whole family is all about music, and my mom has a song for every single word you say. So it's like every
she break out into song every time.
Yeah. Always, yes. I'm like, what's the song today, Mom? But yes, that was the thing, right? My sister and I used to dance all the time, and we dance in the kitchen, and it took me a good, I don't even know, probably like 5 years to get to the place that I was okay to dance in the kitchen, which seems silly, but it was actually, I think it was with my son and I, and we just, I don't know, he was learning break dancing, and so we started dancing, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Feeling safe again in that space to be able to dance. So
yeah, I think for me what helped was just knowing and being okay with the fact that I'm not going to be the same person again. I mean, I'm just a different person now. But I also look at it as I want to live my life in a way that I want to live my life for her too. So for both of us. So with a lot of things I'm doing, like with the mental health first aid, it's in her honor. It's in her memory that I'm doing it, because I really want to especially bring awareness for mental health challenges, because again, when I was growing up, it wasn't a thing. And now I'm sure you feel the same way. You look back at like some of the other people in your family and you're like, oh, yeah.
Yes. No, it is. I mean, the whole conversation is just really important. And that's the whole reason why I have this show, is because we can have these conversations, and it's not hard, it doesn't have to be hard, right? Like we can make it easy as a society to talk about, and most likely everybody has gone through some experience. They're going to be different, but when we can start having the open conversations, asking the questions, noticing some of the signs and the symptoms, whether they're small or big,
right?
But knowing what those are. And I think that's an important part of, more specifically, mental health first aid. Refit gives you that safe space that you can move your body no matter how your body moves.
Right.
And then you also, as a teacher, you can provide the arts, the music, the things that I feel like ground kids, or give them a alternative space other than always having to use their brain.
Right.
I'm like, because sometimes when we have to use our brain all the time, like, I just need a break. Although music, it turns on a different part of your brain. So.
Right. And I think it helps you with those other things that maybe aren't as fun. It helps your brain be able to figure those things out too. That has been researched scientifically. So
yeah, you have your creative part. I'm probably doing the wrong sides, but
and I'm actually not like super creative as a musician. I mean, I was like one of those that I was good at theory.
Okay. More on the analytic
but the expression of music, I had a really hard time like expressing myself through music, like even just by using vibrato on my instruments, like it. And I still have a hard time singing in front of people. I can sing in front of kids.
Okay. Right. Right.
So that's what I really had to work on. So I work on expression a lot with the kids, with the students at school too.
So cool. So you're learning all the time.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. Helps me.
Right. So we're coming to the end. I know it goes really, really fast. I would love for you to share if there is a space. I know you already talked about Refit and how people can come in. They can do the free class on Wednesdays. If you want to reiterate that information, just the time, location, and then if anybody wants to follow your journey, if there's a space that they can, feel free to share that with the audience.
Okay, well, I teach a Refit community class on Wednesdays from 5 to 6, and that's at Trails West Elementary, 5400 South Waco Street, Centennial, 80015. And if you are in if your children are in the Cherry Creek School District, just a reminder that there are a lot of mental health resources for kids in the district. I'm using one right now with one of my daughters. So we have Hazel Health that helps out with kiddos that need some therapy or just need a little bit of support with that, and it's free. The district pays for it. So, but as far as me, you can find me on Facebook, Jennifer Langlotz, Langlotz.
Cool. Well, I am so thankful that we finally got an opportunity to have you come in. I know we've talked about this for years, I feel like. So we made it happen. It will happen once we put it together.
I could just talk to you forever.
I know, right? I know. The shows go really quick. Thank you so much for watching or tuning in and listening. I go live every single Monday at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, or you can listen on Dream Vision 7 Radio at 5 a.m. or 5 p.m. No matter what you do, make sure you come back next week because I promise you I have some amazing guests that will be here. And I don't know why I'm saying that, but I did. And we'll catch you next time. Bye, y'all.